I love the System Shock series, especially System Shock 2. It's easily in my top 10 games of all time, and quite possibly my favourite FPS title of all time, even besting the holiest of the holy, Deus Ex. No game has blended survival horror, FPS and RPG elements quite like System Shock 2 did. The game to this day makes me freak out while playing it, but the way the game allows you to develop your own unique playstyle has made this a shoo-in for many return plays. So when Bioshock was announced in 2004, I was pretty hyped up. I mean, I wanted System Shock 3, but hey, okay, I'll buy it. It's made by Ken Levine and ex-Looking Glass Studio guys. Then it dropped. It sucked. Despite the critical acclaim, I hated it. This was System Shock for babies, like diaper-wearing, nipple-sucking infants. Everything was made too easy, too basic, too boring. I finished it, played through the hardest difficulty with my eyes closed, hoping for something more, and then I never played it again. I was disappointed. I mean, they even reused the twist from System Shock 2 and Bioshock. As homages go, this was the pits. I didn't bother with Bioshock 2, and maybe I'll give it a chance one day, but the damage had been done with the first game. This wasn't my shock. Bioshock Infinite was enjoyable, but following completing it, I realised how hollow the gameplay was, and how downright retarded the story was too. Cut to 2017, and Prey is released. A reboot in name alone of a sci-fi FPS property. I wasn't interested. Something about it just made me think this would be another Bioshock. Then the "it's like System Shock" comment started popping about the internet. I ignored it as name dropping by IGN and their ilk. You know, the pretend I know video game shtick most of these English majors throw on because, well, a job's a job. The misinformation of the origin of the 0451 code is always the biggest giveaway for any of these faux reviewers. Anyway, cut to August 2018, and finally I see the game is on sale. I remember the repeated mentions, "it's like System Shock 2. I keep telling myself, if it's like System Shock, then buy it. If not, then rant about it. It's on sale. It's like System Shock. Go on, just give it a go. It's like System Shock. Prey is like System Shock." I'm big on level design and such that gives you somewhere to explore and do so in your own way, and this game is brilliant. The Talos 1 space station where the game is set is fully explorable. Some areas are off limits due to story elements, but most areas are accessible due to your use of your own logical intellect or your investments in the incredibly balanced skill tree. There have been so many moments where "let's just try this thing," which never works in most games, actually works, and you think Arcane have gone above and beyond here. It's an eye-opener for modern game design. I would highly recommend you go off the beaten path and try to solve any side quests you might encounter. I spent hours in the wrong side of the space station, and although perhaps you should visit these areas later on, and you will, exploring them early often led me to unlocking handy shortcuts which were helpful later on in the main campaign and for the numerous side quests. The glue gun, a chunky rifle-like weapon which allows you to shoot blobs of quick hardening glue, not only slows down and freezes enemies, but it also can be used to create paths, staircases and climbable structures, to access hidden areas, or if you want, just to bypass sections of the map at speed. When I first got the gun, I did not want to use it. I hate weapon switching, especially when incapacitating enemies and then finishing them off. But then I got used to it. But then when I realised you could build climbable objects to get to certain areas, I didn't know what to use it again. Lo and behold, after a few uses and a few secret areas and locations discovered, I was looking for more areas to use it in. It won me over completely. The game runs in the CryEngine, and honestly it looks amazing. Sure, the character models may look a bit Play-Doh-esque like Bioshock, but the environments, weapons and effects are all top drawer. It's one of those games where you don't even think about how it looks because the whole world is just so engaging. It also runs at a solid 60 FPS to boot. I had no graphical issues with this game. Good job, Arcane. A lot of complaints, though, have been levelled at the enemy design, which are, for the most part, largely blackish purple goop monsters. While it's true that the enemy design perhaps isn't the most original, the enemies do stay fresh due to their varied abilities and AI. For example, having dispatched the spider-like mimics and the ethereal humanoid phantoms for numerous hours, I ran into a large floating enemy. Having been a keen engineer in my skill tree, I was often abusing the auto turrets you can find and maneuver about the game. Unfortunately, turrets were a bad choice. Upon placing my turret trap and engaging the enemy, the floating bastard picked up numerous objects as a shield, including my turret, and then turned the damn thing against me. Needless to say, I got absolutely murdered. Still, like I said, the generic designs are made up for by the AI and the abilities they all possess. The level structure involves a lot of backtracking, and this usually is in relation to the side quests. If you don't like backtracking, then you might not like Prey. It features a lot of repeated wandering, but you will find that when returning to these areas, you will have better skills to unlock previously inaccessible parts of the station. It's extremely rewarding game design. All in all, the game flows nicely, and the interconnected nature of the areas really creates a very real sense that you are in a spaceship. Throw in some outside exploration of the ship, and the world really comes to life. Prey looks great, and it plays great. I mentioned the balanced skill trees earlier, and these are superb. Every skill allows you to play the game differently. Instead of skills that have no use or skills which hardly add to the overall gameplay, Prey is fantastic in the way that it teases you with doors and obstacles which you can't get past unless you invest in certain skill sets, but doing so means that you may lack skills in other situations, forcing you to change your playstyle altogether to progress. Then, with more upgrades, your playstyle can differ again. The skills give you options. It's hard to explain, but this is a very different skill system that really helps you progress the way you want to. It's, dare I repeat myself, very System Shock 2. Not that Arcane even tried to deny the love for System Shock in its sequel. The door to your office is 0451, and the video recording systems on the station are called looking glasses. Also, just to clarify this, 0451 is not a reference to Fahrenheit 451. It was the code for the door into the original Looking Glass studios. Be on the lookout for that misnomer. Skills range from weapon upgrading, repair, and hacking, to later on in the game, an array of Mad Typhon abilities. Thankfully, no Psyamp is needed to use them in Prey, although you'll need to scrounge the neuromods around Talos to get them. The controls are fairly intuitive. It basically plays like a shot game in that whilst there's a lot of shooting and sneaking, there also is a lot of inventory management, hacking, and the like. The game also features a lean function, sprint, and basic stamina system. Bizarrely, if you sprint and then crouch, you slide along the floor Vanquish style. It never really came in that much use, but I can see it being valuable if you're doing a speed run. As noted, the game will play how you want to. If you want to go guns blazing, then sure thing. If you want to sneak about, then go for it. Bear in mind, the game can be quite challenging, even on the normal difficulty. If you're a vet of these kind of games, you'll know that ammo conservation and picking your battles is the key to having a happy time on Talos 1. There was a lot of complaints I saw online about the difficulty, but I don't really see how people can say it's too hard. The game is a nice challenge on normal, and it reminds me of 90s era gaming. If you play smart, you'll get through without too many headaches. Just remember to collect all the junk you can and recycle it. No, you're not tasked with saving the environment. The game provides you with a plethora of junk to collect, which when put in a machine called a recycler, converts the same into materials you can then use to synthesize weapons and ammo. So if you're savvy to the recycle locations, then you'll be able to ensure you're always topped up with enough ammo and items to get through every obstacle you encounter. One gripe with the gameplay, and it only really gets annoying when you're backtracking at speed, is the bizarrely long loading screens. The truth is, Prey has 2 loading screens per area change. It's a minor issue overall, but it does disrupt the flow of the game and some of the immersion. I apologize, I hate the word immersion. Anyway, the final act isn't that difficult. As another, response to the hatred online, just make sure you've got hacking level 4 and some EMP grenades. You're welcome. Anyway, I digress. The weapons in the game are fairly rudimentary, and there are really not that many on offer, if you don't include the array of grenades you could obtain. They pack a punch once upgraded though, so even if you're disappointed that you don't ever get the Prey equivalent of a BFG, you'll still be content with Prey's rather beefy shotgun, or some of the Typhon abilities you can invest in. The gameplay also involves some space and zero gravity sections. I thought this would be a nightmare to play, but it's actually surprisingly fluid, and it's a good break from the corridors of the space station. The game has some great set pieces and moments. None I want to spoil here, but there was plenty of times I was grinning ear to ear at how creative and unexpected parts of the game were. Having completed the game once, I can easily see me returning for New Game Plus, if only to see the other endings, choices, and mess around with all the ability skills in the game. In a nutshell, it's a blast to play. I don't want to spoil much of this game, so I'm going to keep this to the basics. You're Morgan Yu, one of the directors of the Transtore Corporation, who are proprietors of the Talos 1 space station, a research facility floating above the Earth, creating neuromods, which are devices which allow you to implant the abilities of anyone into your brain. But these neuromods are the result of the researching of these interdimensional beasts called a Typhon. Lo and behold, like most sci-fi premises, things go very wrong, and the Typhon take over the space station. Q Morgan, suffering a bout of amnesia, trekking across the station to restore his memories and tackle the Typhon threat. Our titular hero, who you can pick as male or female, doesn't actually speak. Well, as the player he doesn't. or she doesn't. However, certain video logs and audio logs for Morgan are discoverable, and Robot Guide January is programmed to speak using Morgan's voice. The extended story, which is probably the main draw to the whole world and the mystery of it, is told through exploration, finding audio logs, and completing side missions. Arguably, the side missions are the biggest determinant of what you'll get out of Prey's main story, and even the ending. It's not the most incredible plot ever, but it is engaging enough to keep you moving towards figuring out what the hell is happening, and what the hell has happened about Talos 1. The endings, perhaps, are a little disappointing, but I think it's always hard to surprise audiences nowadays, especially when it comes to science fiction. As an overall story though, it is a great sci-fi romp, and it never feels like the story is just there to pad out the gameplay. Mick Gordon of Doom and Killer Instinct fame is on music duties for this game, and I honestly did not know it was him until I saw the credits. This is a very different soundtrack to his previously critically acclaimed outings. It's extremely minimalist, and I wouldn't say there is a theme that really sticks in the head here. It's all for the atmosphere, and it works so well you hardly notice it. But I feel it would just make it a little better if it had some creepy techno beats, similarly to System Shock 2. But the sound design overall is brilliant. Due to the difficulty of the game and the propensity for those goddamn mimics to pop out everywhere, the game is already unbelievably atmospheric and tense. Add the eerie sounds of the space station, the creaks and moans of a ship falling apart, and the rumbles of nearby enemies, and you're going to be on the edge of your seat throughout the entire game. Continuing System Shock's trend of audio logs, Prey litters them about just the same. The voice acting is top notch in these morbid recordings of the largely decimated Talos 1 crew. The voiceovers for the main characters in the story are suitably great as well. It's an accomplished cast, and nothing ever really sounds too hokey. It's never going to break the mold, but what it does do is replicate a classic experience for the modern day. It's actually a breath of fresh air in some ways, and it definitely keeps the current Deus Ex and Bioshock devs on their toes, if not showing them how to create a flawless FPS RPG hybrid. I love this game. With System Shock 3 in the pipeline, I wonder now if it will even come close to Prey. Yes, even with Warren Spector on board. From start to finish, I was engrossed in this game, its world, mechanics and story. It's one of the most mentally stimulated games I've played in a long while, and the feeling of satisfaction gained in circumnavigating and exploring the depths of Talos 1 is one which I will always remember. The fact that the game got better and better as I progressed made me go from thinking that this is a great game to knowing this is one of the best games I've ever played. Rewarding, tense and intelligent, in my opinion, Prey is a must-buy.